before we dive into how to use Reader the best way possible, we need to talk about two concepts first. First of all, let's talk about the note-taking apps that I'm using so we get the full picture of how I'm using Reader in my overall productivity system. So here we go. This is the myICOR app that our members can use to lay out their productivity tool stacks. And in the PKM area, as you can see, in my personal area, I'm using Heptabase as my deep thinking tool. When we open this up, you can see how I'm using Heptabase. I'm using it for deep thinking, for my inner world and visual thinking. I'm also using it for quick capture, but in a different way than I would use Reader, and for shallow thinking when I do meeting notes and things like that. So when we go for Reader, you see I'm using it for quick capture and shallow thinking and for the outer world. And that's really important. I made a video about this where I dive really deep into the differences between shallow thinking and deep thinking, and also outer world and inner world. If you haven't watched this, I link it in the description below so you can watch it afterwards. But all you need to know that these are the two tools I'm using. And the reason for this is that I don't want to add noise to my deep thinking system. I need a tool for the outer world, for all the articles and videos that spark some ideas to very quickly capture this. Please my FOMO, my fear of missing out, but not cluttering up my deep thinking system, which is in this case my Heptabase tool. So I tried to kill Reader, but then as I said, it's giving me too much noise inside Heptabase. However, the second concept we need to talk about is how do I stay in control of all this information? Many of you know this, using read later apps, you might just throw things in there and you forget about this. You will never take any action on it. And that's why it's important to talk about the second concept, which is the inbox. And there was another video that I will link in the description below for you to watch afterwards, where I talked about inboxes. Many professionals, they directly capture and try to organize it on the fly. And that's usually giving a lot of friction, thinking about where do I place it, where it's best stored. And that's where inboxes come into play and why they are so powerful, where we have an intermediate step where I can quickly capture things on the go and don't need to think about how I organize them later. And when I'm back on my desk or in a better mood maybe, I then can organize them perfectly within the tool or into other tools if it is some action or something like that. That looks maybe complicated what you see here, but in the other video that I linked below, I go a lot deeper, step by step, going through the things as you can see here. In this video, I'm just mentioning the inboxes. I didn't show how I'm leveraging actually the inboxes inside Reader, and that's what we will dive in today. So let's go. If you follow me on this channel, you know I like to lay this out in a tool agnostic way first before we dive into the tool. So let's think about how Reader actually works. Reader has three different inboxes. It has the inbox, it has the later inbox, and it has directly the arc. So whenever you select an article or anything like that, you can choose in which inbox it should end up in. So let's say I have found an article that I want to save for later for reading. Then I just save because I'm curious. Maybe I'm interested in this later or not. I just want to add it to my system. So in this case, I would simply add this to the inbox. And again, we will see inside the tool later how this all works. But that's the basics, okay? In my inbox, there are all the things to please my FOMO. There might be also videos. The same thing. If I find a YouTube video that resonates with me, but I have no idea what to do with it, I will just simply store it in the inbox and maybe give it a tag related to the My Life concept. Again, another video that I will link below, how I organize any tools inside my PKM world. But what happens if there's something that I really want to process later, that I might want to move into another system later on? This is where the later inbox comes into play. If I think that this is important and needs to go into later, well, I will also tag it and I move it into later. And later, and that's the difference, is the only inbox inside Reader that I will process based on my routines. You have seen it up here inside Sansama. There I have my routines, my daily routines where I process inboxes. So I will never forget to process my inboxes, and that's how you can easily stay on top. Again, another video that you could watch on this channel where I talk about how to use routines. Okay, so this means when the routine hits, this is the only one that I care about to look into, and all the rest I ignore. And there's the other one that I rarely use and anytime, which is archive. So how does this look in action? Let's dive into this. Let's say you're on a website and you're reading an article from Paco Cantero, our co-founder, and he has very in-depth article where he goes really deep into the things. I say, I have no time about this, but well, I'm curious about how this works and I want to save it. Well, there's a keyboard shortcut on Mac, Option R, and it opens this up, but obviously you could also press the extension button and then you see this on top, and here on default moves it into the normal inbox. And now based on what we learned, if I keep it there, I don't care later on. It's in my system if I search for a relevant thing, but let's say I really want to study this article, then I would move it to the later inbox. I give it a tag like productivity systems and that's it. And now I could already start highlighting on here, but I have no time. That's why I can now forget about this. Let's open Reader and see how this looks in there. Now we are inside Reader, and if I go to library, you see now here's my inbox and it's full with random things. I never archived all these. You see it's 168 things in there, and that's what the typical inboxes look for people who are not processing their inboxes. As I said, I don't care so much. I could go here and say apply bulk action or Shift B. And then I can say move all to later, which would be moved to the other inbox, or I can move them to archive. And that's what I will do here. Boom, it's now empty. And it doesn't matter because it is in my system. So now it's part of the videos. You see here all the videos and so on. The key is I have a later inbox, and now I know everything that is in there. I put there because I think I need to process it. So maybe there are some insights that feed into my deep thinking system and so on. And now I can calmly use the perfect reading experience inside Reader to calmly go through this and start highlighting the things. Give it some notes, okay? And so on. And you see now it summarizes here. I have a notebook where I have the highlights. I can calmly go through this. But the amazing thing is if I ever go back to this website, you see that it recognizes that this is already on Reader and I have a highlight. I can click here and it goes to the relevant article on Reader. And if I scroll down here, you see the highlight even shows up here. That's the great thing. I already see if I ever saved this article in the first place. And that's really great to have here. I even the notes here. This is really great. So I never save an article twice. So now if we go back with this example, I then process the later. Maybe I archive it inside Reader, or if I really get some deep insights from this, maybe parts of it move into my deep thinking system. Or if I have some actions, we can go back here because it shows it perfectly. If we have any actions coming out of this article, maybe I want to make a video about this article, it would go into ClickUp workstream, for example. Or if I have some minor tasks, they would go into Todoist and so on. So this is how I control Reader, a read later app, and I would always seek in other tools that are read later apps like this one to find a separation in some way or form to give it the right priority, whatever I save. Otherwise, you will end up with thousands of things in there. And I always say, at least it's now in the Reader read later app and not in my deep thinking system. So that's why it's so crucial to separate the outer world from the inner world information so you keep things clean in the place where it really matters what you're searching for. But the great thing using the Reader Read Later app is that it directly integrates with Readwise. So if I open up Readwise, stop using due dates, that's from Paco Cantero, and you see here the things that I selected and even my note. Going through the daily review, serendipity would happen and I would get reminded of the highlights I have taken on the article. And that's why it's so important to not just highlight everything, otherwise it's just nonsense and it will again provide you just noise. You want to have signal. So really the things that just resonate with you, highlight them in the first place, add some notes, but then move them into the right place. We don't use the Readwise integration inside Heptabase. That maybe some people come up with a question here, because again, it's just noise. Not every highlight is essential for me to have it in my deep thinking system. And having all the highlights also from Kindle and so on inside my Heptabase messes up my search. If I start searching, I get all this noise around and less signal. I hope I was able in this video to explain to you the differences of outer world and inner world tools, and also the power again of inboxes. As I mentioned, if you want to dive deeper into these concepts, go into the description below where I link to the other videos for you to watch next. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so I can catch you up in the next one.